Wednesday, February the 22nd. Lake level's about 906 3/4. The same place it's been for about the last 3 or 4 weeks. It goes up and down a few inches some days, but it's been pretty consistent there, which is about 10 feet low. The big story is the water temperature. I mean, the last few days it's really climbing. It was 51.5 degrees this morning when I put in, and when I got off the water later in the day in the stained water, I found some 57, 58 degree water. Even though the water is warming up that quick, it's still going to take a few days for them fish to start moving. You know, out there where a lot of them fish been living all winter, that water's still pretty cold. So I think we get a little overexcited when the surface temperature gets up like that, but the fish are starting to move. You can see the bait that's been out there real deep. It's coming up higher in the water column. I'm starting to see a lot more shad in the coves, in around the points. I think the bite is still a grind. It's a tough bite. You know, it's by no means easy. You can catch fish from 60 foot to shallow as 3 or 4 feet. I think a lot of those deep fish, you know, they're out there off of bluff ends, main lake points. You can catch some of them on a drop shot, some of them on an ice fishing jig. But I think that bite's going to go away because those fish are moving. You know, with the warmer water, the longer days, those fish are starting to head into the bank, and it seems to be I'm having a harder time finding the deep fish. They're in fewer and fewer spots. But if you can find them, they're kind of grouped up pretty good. One of the bites that's the best right now is with these shad moving. These fish are starting to stage on these gravel roll-offs, main lake and secondary points. And a lot of the way we're catching them out there, we're catching them on several different, you know, when you got good wind, you can catch them on a jerkbait around some of these gravel flats, pole timbered points. Well, I got an underspin, yeah. This is a 3.8 Strike King swim bait, and I've got this one on a 1/2 ounce head where I can fish it when it's real windy or a little bit deeper. A lot of times I'll throw a little 1/4 ounce one, and I'll throw it on 6 or 8 pound lines, spinning gear, and then I'll use a little 2.8, like a little kaite. Now you can also use a little 4-inch grub, smoke with red flake. And I don't think it matters what brand, Yamamoto, Bass Pro, Chompers. This is a Chompers 4-inch smoke with the black flake, and also salt and pepper. Now we're fishing some of these on the underspins, and a lot of them we're fishing on just a 1/4 ounce ball head. And it changes day to day and by the hour as far as how deep you want to fish it. What you got to do is either idle around or fish it for a little bit. Keep an eye on your electronics. See how deep the fish is suspended. Try to drop it down to that depth. It seems like a lot of them have been in that 10 to 25 foot. Some of them off bluff ends, some of them around pole timbered points. It's still really hard to catch them. Like I say, it's by no means easy. I think it's still a grind to catch the fish, but they are moving quite a bit. And with that warmer water later in the day today, we caught a few on crankbaits. And I'm either throwing a wiggle wart, a rock crawler, or a Strike King 3XD. And I'm primarily staying with crawdad patterns. This is a big one here. The custom painted PBJ, Fall Creek Lures paints it. But a lot of different crawdad colored crankbaits will work. And the jerkbait is still slow, but I'm catching some of my better fish on the jerkbait. But I have to have ideal conditions. I've got to have a little wind. And I think as more of these fish move up out of the deeper water, we're going to see that jerkbait bite get better. And, you know, it looks like the weather, we got a cold front coming in this weekend, but then it's going to get warm again. You know, I'm going to say by the middle of next week, as that water warms up a little bit deeper down, the bait and everything is already starting to move. I think it's really going to get good in the next week or so. But there's several different ways to catch them. You can actually catch them on a Ned rig. You just got to fish it real slow on the bottom. Been able to catch some on this. It's a pig stick or pig rig. It's kind of like a biffle hardhead. I've got a Strike King Menace on it for a trailer. Another bait that'll work real good is an Ultra Vibe Speed Craw. You know, green pumpkin purple. You know, and I wouldn't even rule out a spinnerbait, especially if the wind starts to blow. Some of the river arms got some really good colored water. And it looks like we got some rain forecasted for next week. If we get some water, if it's a warm rain coming in the backs of these pockets, I think it'll be pretty awesome. I think it'll be lights out on a spinnerbait. If we get good water flow coming back in, coming over them warm rocks, that water coming in is going to be warmer than the lake, and it should really trigger up, some of them bigger fish to feed. But this past weekend, the weights were, I think it was 16 pounds to win a solo pro, 14 was second, 13 something was third. So, for the most part, it's still pretty tough, but there were some bigger fish starting to show up. I think 7 something was big fish, and there were several 5-pounders. So that's encouraging, but I think as this water warms up, you're going to see more fish and start to get bigger. Like I say, I'm probably the world's worst. When I see that water temperature climbing up, I think the fish should immediately come in, but usually, it takes that water temperature for several days before you start seeing, a big migration with the fish. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.